What about Dalton Schultz? I think there's certain people that really love Dalton Schultz and what he was able to do. I think there were some games he ended up being, whether we like it or not, the #1 target for Dak Prescott. And that is one of the reasons of the three here. Keep this offense as Dak-friendly as possible. And there's not a more Dak-friendly player on this offense than Dalton Schultz. And are you willing to take that away and take your chances the offense will keep rolling without Dak's security blanket? Now, the caveat could be, well, we were nervous about when Blake Jarwin got hurt, who was going to step up. Well, Dalton Schultz did. And I actually am a big fan of Sean McEwen out of Michigan. I liked him when the Cowboys signed him as an undrafted rookie free agent. I think he's got some potential. But you do have kind of a natural chemistry between Dak and Dalton Schultz. Schultz has a knack of getting open. He isn't exactly a guy that's going to burn you after the catch, much like what we experienced with Jason Witten. But he's a guy that is just Mr. Reliable. And is that a dude that's worth keeping around as you try and build a team, much like what the Bills have done around Josh Allen very successfully, to try and be as friendly as possible to your quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not something like Dalton Schultz. He catches the ball when it's thrown to him, but it's not like he's making massive plays. There's a bunch of tight ends who many people wouldn't even know who they are, and I mean, on a yards per reception basis, they're much higher. And so, like, that's one of the things that I look at. Like, are you really stretching the field? Because the guys who are getting paid a lot of money, like, just throwing a name out there where it's like, okay, let's see. Is it Dallas Goedert? Okay, he just got paid a bunch of money. He's like 15 yards a catch. Your guy's 10 yards a catch. The George Kittles of the world. Like, these dudes are putting up numbers that are, it just shows their athleticism more. Like, hey, this guy is stretching the field more. He's not just a security blanket, just some hands that are open 6 yards down the field that most NFL caliber players can just catch the ball. Like, it's not like Dalton Schultz is doing these amazing, unbelievable things. You don't watch him and go, wow, he's up there with the Wallers and the Kittles and the Kelseys and the Mark Andrews and the Dallas Goederts. No, it's just like there's a guy who was pretty wide open, not very far down the field, and he caught the ball. I'm not throwing top tight end money at him because that's what he's probably going to go out there and want. He's going to want at least Jonnu Smith money, $12.5 million a year. It's just not going to happen. He's going to want Austin Hooper money, $10.5 million a year. Not going to happen. And he's certainly not touching a George Kittle $15 million a year or whatever. No. Like, I mean, so like when he gets to the open market, he's going to look at Washington tight end Logan Thomas, who's been good at the tight end position for 5 seconds, and he's making $8 million a year. They're not doing that. Like, I'm sure some team will go out there and just do it, but it ain't going to be the Cowboys, and I don't blame them for it.
No, they cannot afford it, especially when they've already shelled out a lot of money to Blake Jarwin, thinking he was going to be that guy, and then he suffered the injury. And Jarwin just did not really do anything this year because Dalton Schultz really wouldn't let him on the field, and that's a credit to Dalton Schultz. I don't want to belittle what Dalton Schultz has done. I think he's done an incredible job in his role here with the Cowboys, but the question is it something that is he a replaceable player? For me, I think that answer is yes, because their number 2 reason here, courtesy of Blogging the Boys, of why they need to make Dalton Schultz a priority would be there's not an ideal replacement. And they talk about Sean McEwen and the fact that he does have some injury history. He got hurt during preseason, then he ended up having a neck injury late in the year, and he just has not been able to show you that, 1, he can stay healthy, and 2, when he has been on the field, really he hasn't had a ton of opportunity, right? Which is totally fair. But, the injuries are one that, I mean, you can't project and predict injury, but I do think if given the opportunity, he's the type of player that has a very similar skill set to Dalton Schultz that could give you very similar productivity.
Yeah, I just think he is replaceable, and the type of money he's going to command is just probably, it's going to be too rich for me. So that's totally fine. I think it's the perfect example of not wanting to pay, decent player good money. I'm not going to say good player great money because I don't think he's going to get great money, but he's going to get good money, and he's probably decent. Like, that's probably where I would label him. He's a decent player. So I think this is an easy one where the Cowboys walk away from it because some team will probably give him a few extra million a year that the Cowboys just don't want to mess with.
Reason number 3 is that Dalton Schultz might be special. Yeah. Now, I will say that, I mean, he has improved year over year. He is the only tight end outside of Jason Witten in Cowboys history to top 800 receiving yards. Credit to you. But I don't think that that's something that, I don't think either of us look at Dalton Schultz and say he's ever going to be one of those special, elite, top 3 tight ends in football. He's steady Eddie. He's good. He could be a top 10 tight end in the league, but I don't think he's ever going to be one of those players that defenses are game planning to stop.
Right. 100%.
Now, some of the texts that came in, 469, they both aren't good enough to keep, so let them ride. 254, we can work with Schultz on blocking, but I'd keep him because he's good. Tony O. Eric, because Moore doesn't scheme worth a crap. Swap Kelsey and Schultz, and they both, stat-wise, I guess they're saying stat-wise they're comparable to an extent. I mean, I just think physically Kelsey's just a much more athletic player.
Yeah, he's a much more gifted athlete, 100%. I get the offense and the quarterback and all these different things being set up for it, 100% I do. But don't tell me Dalton Schultz is going to Kansas City and doing what Travis Kelce's doing. It's just not. It's not in the cards.
Schultz reminds me of Jay Novacek from the 214. And what's up, Coach Riff Dog? Getting a lot of love for the Verone McKinley interview. 682 Jarwin will not stay healthy. If you lose Dalton, then you will not have to spend a free agent or use a higher draft pick. Get rid of Cooper before Dalton. So there are some bleeders out there and some turn it on and leave it on listeners, hashtag Tolo, that are in the keep Dalton Schultz bandwagon. Oil gives me gas 69 is in favor of keeping Dalton Schultz as well. But we will see what ends up happening with what the Cowboys want to do. I just think he's going to end up being out of their price range.